Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Chicago and suburbs. Welcome to Sexual Health, a social media talk show where we will be discussing all things that deal with sexual health, which includes the physical, social, political, and medical aspects of it. I will be your host, Alberto Martinez, along with
Nakia Pruitt.
and we will be leading today's discussion on what is sexual health for everybody. Okay. So before we do, let's do some introductions. Let's get to
Sure.
know each other.
hmm
And Nikki, I think I'll go ahead and let you kick it off.
All
Let
right.
us know who you are.
Okay, so thank you, Alberto. My name is Nakia Pruitt. I am a supervisor at Mount Sinai Hospital for medical case management. So I oversee the HIV medical case managers through the AIDS Foundation of Chicago, but we are stationed at Mount Sinai Hospital. Um, I received my bachelor's in public health from Northern Illinois University. I've been working in the HIV field for 7 years, doing social services for 8. Then ended up going back to school to get my master's in social work. And right now I'm in the process of just obtaining my licensure to be a licensed clinical social work. So most of the things that my lens and how view things are all coming from a social work theoretical framework. So that is me, Nakia Pruitt, and I'll kick it back to you, Alberto.
All right, and that is Nikki Pruitt. Just really quick about myself. I have a bachelor's degree in applied behavioral science. I've been in the social service field for the last 20 years. Yes, 20 years. I am the old man in the room.
Yes, he is.
Not that old. Not that old, but I am the old man in the room.
You getting up there?
About 14 of those years have been in HIV services. I've gone through different positions throughout that time, starting off with testing, testing in the emergency room, STI HIV testing in the emergency room, doing case management, medical social service case management through AFC as well. Um, what else have I done?
What are you doing now?
You know what? Right now, it's not prevention. I'm sorry, development and implementation
Okay.
of a prep program.
All right.
So actually, I was doing that before, but now I kind of moved on to a different agency and started that process as well. So, we're moving on up.
Yeah.
We're moving on up. All of our experience just keeps taking us on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what we're supposed to do.
So that is us. That is Nakia. I am Alberto. And before we get started, there's a couple of disclaimers that we have to kind of put out there,
Yeah.
just to make sure we don't get in trouble. Nikki doesn't get in
Mhm.
trouble. I don't get in trouble. So
And my
Nikki
license don't get taken away.
and her license don't. So Nikki, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, thank you, Alberto. So I just want to let you all know that the views and opinions expressed in this webcast are those of my own opinion and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Mount Sinai Hospital nor the AIDS Foundation of Chicago. Um, and over to you.
All right. So a couple more disclaimers. First and foremost, while we do have extensive experience and knowledge about sexual health, sexually transmitted diseases, HIV, and so on, we are not medical professionals. So anything diagnostic, treatment, anything of that nature, please, it is just opinion from us.
Yes.
So seek your medical professional and get and get that opinion from them. That's one. That's probably the most important one. And also, although we've done this type of work for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
this is something new to us. So kind of being in
Yeah.
front of a camera, being on a mic,
Yeah.
it's really difficult. It's not as easy as it looks, let me tell you.
Yes.
By no means.
We did like 15 takes before we started this session.
So while this is brand new to us, all that we ask is give us a little time. We have to adjust. We have to kind of get used to getting into the flow of stuff. So just go along with the ride, and let's see where it takes us.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
So, with that being said, we're going to take a quick 60-second break,
Okay.
a couple words from one of our sponsors, and when we return, we're going to discuss sexual health.
All right.
All right. And we are back.
All right.
So, let's start off this segment by talking about sexual health. What is sexual health? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to me?
Mm.
And so, Nikki, why don't you go ahead and start it off and tell us what sexual health means to you?
Uh, Before I start off, did you want to give out your definition
Oh,
first?
you know what? Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, go
So
ahead.
here, let's start off with this. I obtained this definition from the what is this? It's called WHO, the World Health Organization,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought this was probably the best definition that I found. Only because sometimes when you ask that question, a lot of people kind of don't know how to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
They're like they know, but then they don't know. So I thought I'd throw this out there first, and then we can kind of discuss what it means. So sexual health is a state of physical, mental, and social well-being in relation to sexuality. It requires a positive, respectful approach to sexuality and sexual relationships, as well as the possibility of having pleasurable and safe sexual experiences, free of coercion, discrimination, and violence. Nikki?
Yeah, I think this is a really good definition from the World Health Organization. I think it encompasses a lot. So, the physical aspect, the mental and social well being. And I would like to also include it. I'm not sure if they were trying to, if social, this would fall under the umbrella of social well being, but the religious aspect, right? So, from a cultural lens,
Okay.
how does religion play out when we talk about sexual health? Like in some religions, it's not appropriate for you to wear condoms. In other religions,
Wait,
it's
oh,
okay for
so
you.
so
Go
it's
ahead.
frowned upon to wear condoms.
It's I don't want to say it's frowned upon because I can't really speak from that religious standpoint because I don't know that part, the component.
Okay.
So this is just an outsider looking in. Um, it is it negates the the biblical aspect of uh reproduction. So if man and woman, husband and wife are getting together, then as a husband and wife, I shouldn't be wearing condoms with you. But it doesn't talk about these people who are out here maybe having sex with sex workers and not wearing condoms and then coming back home to their wives, or those that are not remaining monogamous are having these other sexual relations, adultery, committing adultery. That's what from a religious aspect, and
Right.
how that pans out into sexual health
Okay.
culturally.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can see that, right?
Right.
A lot of people kind of look at those beliefs and stick to what those beliefs are. So if you're told right from when you're a kid. Hey, you can't have sex. What was that one? You can't have sex before marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nobody really follows that, but you know, it's
Mm-hmm.
still when taken, it's taken to a degree, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, I think more than anything, women are the ones that
Go ahead. I'm listening. Women are the ones that what?
oh boy,
Yeah. I mean, but this is what it's about, right? So we're coming from, you're in a different age bracket than I am. You're a different gender than I am. I
sure,
identify as a Black African American woman.
yeah.
Um, so, and you identify as a,
Latino male, 20 something for real. I'm
yes.
20 something. So you're right. You're right. And you know what? I think thinking about it now, I think sometimes is even talking about it, right? Like
Right.
I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, there's something I want to say, but I don't know if I should.
It's okay. I think that it depends on the dialogue between two
Yeah.
individuals, that it's okay to have create these safe places where you can have these type of discussions, because these type of discussions are important when we're talking about sexual health. It's
Right.
okay. And I think that has this message has to transcend not just here, but in our families, with our children. What age appropriate is it okay to have these discussions where we talk about sexual health? But just letting you know that it is a safe place. So I want you to share exactly what you're going to say
You know what?
about women.
And no. Well, not even that. Okay, so let's say that. Let's be open about it. Let's
Yeah.
be open about the communication, because I think that's part of what's lacking as well,
Mhm.
where people don't want to talk about it. Like you mentioned in the homes, right?
Mhm.
Even like with parents and child, sometimes they stay away from not having those conversations, or even with partners, right?
Mhm.
Or husband and wife, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes they don't talk about it.
Mhm.
You know, so okay, all right, that's good. All right, so let's go back to what you were saying.
Okay.
So you took the stand, well, not the stand, but you mentioned that there is a belief, at least religiously or
Mhm.
whatever the case may be, that sometimes it's not okay to do certain things for women,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
But even knowing that, even women, even today, even women who are educated, women who are independent, even now where we are today, is it okay for them to keep following those beliefs? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I think again, when we're talking about sexual health, they mentioned the physical, the mental, and the social well-being. I think it is totally up to, sexual health is your own definition. Even though they have a standard, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to abide by these standards. And I think that that is the problem with many humans, is we don't look at gray areas. We think of things as is either it is or it isn't. This is
mm,
what it is. This is what it's not. And like we were talking about sexuality, right? Is sexuality on a spectrum, when everything that we have, it has been conditioned in how we view things in this heteronormative society, right? So everything is base male, female. There is no in between. There is no trans. There is no either you are male or you're female. Either there is no gay. There is no queer. There is no none of that. And so again, it's an individual thing, because you may not identify with this whole World Health Organization definition, and is that okay? So that's just my opinion.
okay. So here, sexual health is a state of. So I think about this, right?
Hmm.
So let me tell you what sexual health means to me
Okay.
when I even think about it, right? So sexual health to means just being conscious of yourself, which I think you mentioned, right?
Hmm.
So just knowing who you are,
Hmm.
knowing who your partner is, and knowing that there's a safe place for you guys.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Safe place.
And so for the individuals to be aware of each other, and more you as an individual, right, to make sure that you're safe, to
Hmm.
make sure that you're in a good position situation where you're not at risk.
Hmm.
You know, so whatever person you're with, you have to be able to trust them. You have to be able to know that no harm will come to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the risk of something getting passed on to you that shouldn't be there. So sexually transmitted disease, right? That's the big one. That's the one everybody's worried about. Having or being in that position where you know the person that's with you, that's not going to be something that you worry about,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now we know that's not always the case,
Never.
right? So being in the positions that we've been in, how many times did we sit across somebody where they've told us, I can't be positive. There's no way I can be positive. I've been with my husband for 10 years, or I've been with my wife for 10 years, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sitting there looking at them like, okay, I understand that you believe that,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that aspect, in that case, their sexual health,
Mm-hmm.
what happens to their sexual health?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, think about that for a second. Think about being in that position.
Yeah. Again, I think that's the dealing with the social well-being. So the social aspect of sexual health, right? So the trust, the loyalty, the monogamy. I may be in a relationship and I'm hoping that my partner is um, monogamous and we have the same ideas and the same beliefs about being monogamous, and having that communication think uh, open communication about, if you are trying to step out, at least let me know that this is what you want to do, or if you're going to do it, protect yourself. It's not fair that it's almost like you're taking away something from me when you make that decision for me by giving me or infecting me with X, Y, and Z. You've taken that freedom from me because I trusted you with thinking that you're going to be faithful to me as I am to you. And we know that, like you said, we see
Yeah.
our patients, they sit across from us, they tell us, I don't understand how this happened, I've been faithful. And we always say that the only person that you can trust is yourself,
That's
because
right.
you're around yourself 24/7. You're not around your partner, you're not around your significant other. You don't know when they've evolved. So it, again, sexual health goes beyond just that. Then now we're talking about the mental part, the evolution of, I
Yeah.
may be a monogamous person now, but at 20 something, let's go back to the male female thing that we talked about in the past,
Okay.
right? That it's okay for men in their 20s and teenager years that they can just go on these sex rampages and have sex
Well,
with all types of women, and it's socially acceptable. But with women, no, you cannot. You are supposed to save yourself for your husband, for that one person. And so now you have these two conflicting things. And so as you evolve as a male, you're growing from your 20s, your teens, your 20s to your 30s with that same mentality. You've never disciplined yourself to be with one person, but this woman culturally has been taught and conditioned to be with one person.
yeah. Well, here, just
Mm-hmm.
hold on. So,
Yeah.
yes, yes and no, right? So yeah, so maybe a guy in his 20s, he's going to be all over the place. He's going to experiment. He's going to do what he wants,
Mm-hmm.
right? But as they get older,
Yeah.
the mindset starts changing, right? And
That's
I'm not going to say all of them.
mm-hmm.
I'm not even going to say majority of them because believe me,
Man, yeah.
and I know men are the problem. You don't have to tell me. I know men are the problem. That
Yes.
I'll give it.
Yes, they
I'll
are.
put it out there. Men are the problem.
Yes.
So, anyways,
Thank you. We have one that admitted.
so yeah, so not a small percentage, but a minority of men will eventually grow up. They will look at it, and they will mature,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they will start looking for something else.
Mm-hmm.
Now you still have that other group that refuses to grow up
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason. Maybe they like that. Maybe that's how they want their life to be,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, they should still be taking care of each other, right? Regardless of whether you're this guy who's still out there, whatever,
Mhm.
or if you're this guy who's decided to settle down and be with a specific person or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think as an individual, you still should take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And we talked about what sexual health meant. I think it also means sexual health is an individual. As an individual, you have to look at the sexual health.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of where you fall, you should be taking care of your health, your sexual health.
Yes.
Regardless if you're married,
Yeah.
regardless if you're that guy,
I agree.
you know?
I agree. But with the religious aspect, then if I am, as a woman, am taught to be submissive to my husband, right? That I no longer have an identity, that my body is your body. And so when it comes down to it, you get the final say so. Even though I know, but I'm coming from a very different lens than those who are grown up and
Yeah.
and live and breathe the religious aspects of just their religion. This is a part of who they are, and you
I
cannot
understand.
take that from them.
I
They ain't giving that up for nobody.
but see, but then there's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Is that if they're not giving it up,
Right. Now you run the risk of, yes, I as a man may have these beliefs of, of being loyal and not committing adultery, but I also have these fleshly desires that, my wife is not giving me, so then I can go seek these pleasures.
sure.
And
And we
then
see
I'll
that.
just repent later. I'll repent and say 30 Hail Marys later.
There's Hail Marys. Well, you're not talking about Catholics, are you?
I'm just saying, hey, I mean, we could be honest. That's in the news about how at one point the Pope was against condoms.
I remember, yeah.
And
Progression.
yes,
So okay, so in saying that, why can't women progress too? Or at least
because we're not.
maybe that's not the right way to say it.
Yes, I was about to leap
That's
across the
that's
table.
no. That's not the wrong. So how do we advance
Uh-huh.
the culture that you're talking about? Because let me say this, because it's obviously easier for men to kind of switch things around.
Mm-hmm.
If men actually wanted to change, they can change from one day to the next.
Okay.
Well, I mean, in the sense, if internally they wanted to,
Yes, internally. Okay. Yes.
where they don't have restrictions, where they feel that there's some sort of cultural significance that holds them.
Mm-hmm.
Men are just simple beings that, hey, you know what? Okay, tomorrow I'll do something different. Where women tend to really, really think stuff through, which you should, right? But obviously, we men don't think
Right,
about it.
because we have to. We have been forced and conditioned to think things through. Like, hey, for example, I as a woman just can't randomly walk in the streets at night. Like, I have to think these things through about my safety. These are things that have been taught to women from the beginning of time. So, of course, my natural or innate things that I think are, I have to think these things through. So again, you don't necessarily have to worry about if you go out and put your drink down. You can leave your 7-Up and be okay with your 7-Up right there. Me, I gotta take my 7-Up to the bathroom.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
See, and in these things, it's like a reflex. It's just something that's just automatic. Why do we think like that? And that's because of things that have been ingrained in us, dealing with misogyny. We are more patriarchal than we are matriarchal, that everything falls from male to female.
Sure.
That's just how and because of that, that's why we have a lot of these issues, and a lot of these we're not individuals because of that.
Sure.
Because you all men set these rules, and we just gotta live by them.
Wow.
However, it is not natural. Some people say it's not natural to wear condoms. It's not a natural thing to do.
Sure. I've heard
We hear
that.
it all the time. It takes away the pleasure.
Mhm.
I mean, how many people out here wearing condoms? Yeah. So, but I don't want to digress. But
But you know what? In saying that, in saying what you just said, so then what steps do you take to make sure you have control of your sexual health?
Um,
As a woman, what steps can you take to make sure you have control of your sexual health?
I mean, I think it is being proactive and not reactive.
Sure.
Um, I think it is being intentional. And then the biggest part is finding self-worth. I think when you understand your value as a human being in general, I think this is with anybody, you won't settle, you won't compromise for the foolery that's out there.
You won't be
Uh
put in those positions, you mean?
yes, you
Okay.
won't I won't be put in these positions where, if somebody is not willing to put on a condom for to respect my safety, then we shouldn't be having sex. If somebody is not willing to wait to marriage, then we shouldn't even be together. Like why
Oh
am I
man, all
wasting my
right.
time?
Okay.
So that is me saying what I would do is being an active participant, and also making sure that I go to the doctor. We have insurance for a reason. We should use it. And so that medical aspect that you mentioned, that's an important piece about making sure you get your checkup.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, I don't know. I mean, I know why people don't go to the doctor, and we could talk about that on a later segment, dealing with the cultural aspect of the medical profession and marginalized groups. Um, but I think that that's also important piece is making sure that you go get your yearly
Yeah.
checkup.
And I think more than anything for our young adults, right?
Yeah.
Because I think they're the ones that don't like to go. Um,
Also
I
seniors.
can say us, right? Well, hold on. I can say us because, well, let me speak for myself.
Mhm.
Obviously, being a little older, now I know the importance of getting checkups and whatnot. But
Mhm.
but when you're young, you don't think about that stuff,
Mhm.
so you don't go get those checkups that you're talking about.
Right.
So they are important.
Mhm.
They definitely are important. To take a little time out and get yourself checked out.
Mhm.
Get yourself checked. That's a first step.
Yeah.
And I think for men, that's probably the best step to take. I know, even if they're out there,
Mhm.
which they are, even if they're not, they should still get themselves checked out, at least for themselves, right? To know where
Mhm.
they stand, and also for the partners that they're going to be in relationships with.
Right. Right.
So that kind of helps everybody all
Mhm.
around, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I think if they were to start doing that, maybe we'll see some of these sexually transmitted disease numbers go down. Because just in case you guys didn't know, those numbers are high, and they're the highest with our young adults. So anybody 18 to 25.
13. We're talking
Oh,
about as young
yeah,
as
that's right.
13 to 24.
That's right. You're right.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, they're really high. Um, you
Cook
know,
County is one of the largest. Well, I mean, because we're also a large county, but has some of the highest infection rates when we're talking about chlamydia, gonorrhea,
yeah,
um,
yeah, syphilis,
syphilis.
and we've seen a big jump in syphilis.
Yes, it's like there's this trend where syphilis will go down and then it'll spike back up
Yeah,
and then it'll go back down. But you can also find this information at the Chicago city website when you're talking about the surveillance of
yeah,
STI epidemics in Chicago.
yeah. But they kind of like always go up and down with each other.
Hmm.
They're like all over the place. But the ones that get hit the worst are the young people.
And I think a
They're,
big, go
go ahead.
ahead.
I
No,
was just gonna repeat the ages,
yeah,
right? 13, 25.
yeah.
That's where most of these infections are. Why? Because they have a lot of partners,
I
and they're
don't
not
even think
taking their
it's,
sexual health.
well, I don't think it's not just because they have a lot of partners. It is not being going back to that sexual health, being an active participant in your health. We're
Right.
talking about 13 to 24-year-olds. We're
Oh, that's
talking
a
about
big difference.
individuals
Yeah.
who we're talking about 13 year
Yeah.
olds are still kids. We
Yes.
forget that they're still kids,
Yes.
even though they have legal at 12. You have a right to take an HIV testing. You can get HIV testing at the age of 12. You can get you can get a pregnancy test. You can get birth control at these young ages, which are still children. So
Yeah.
these are children who have not developed the cognitive part of their brain yet, so they're not even able to make critical decisions. So
But they're
it's
still involved in sexual
they
activity.
are still involved.
Sometimes willing, sometimes not.
Yes, and
Right.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
yes. And I mean, and that then comes on the onus of parents being participants in teaching your children the importance and what sexual health is, and also just thinking about, again, going back to children, they're not thinking about doctors. They're afraid that
Of course.
my mom is going to find out I'm having sex, so I shouldn't be doing that. Or they don't even know. They don't even. We got 50-year-olds that don't even know what chlamydia and what a condom is, and we're talking about 13-year-olds who should still be playing with GI Joes and Barbie dolls are doing, I don't even, well, I guess you can say adult things, and not knowing what the consequences are,
Yeah.
and people not getting treated. That is another big issue. If you go have sex and you get tested and you have chlamydia, and the person that you had sex with never got treated, and you go back and have sex with that
Yeah.
same person, you're gonna get it again.
The what do you call it? The social no the social network or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. And so you know what, and we'll talk about that in another
Yeah.
show. Obviously that's really important for people to know that, which I think people do, but sometimes it's worth kind of going over. Just to kind of use as a reminder and maybe kind of talk about some other
Right.
stuff. That beep that you heard means that we are out of time.
Yes, we are.
Now, we kind of went all over the place just because sexual health, there's so much to
Yeah,
talk
it's a
about.
lot. It's big.
So we went here, we went there, and we obviously didn't expand.
Hmm.
But in future episodes, we'll take a topic and we'll kind of stay on that, and we'll kind of dig a little deeper just to make sure we get a good overall understanding of it, get our personal views,
Hmm.
because it's important.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
it's important.
it's really important. Again, for our young adults, our adults,
Hmm.
even our senior citizens. Oh, let's wait till we get into our senior
Yes.
citizens, because there's stuff going on there.
Yes, they out there still getting their freak on.
Yeah, they're there. They're there. So hopefully you will tune in. We will be doing this once a month.
Mhm.
Today is the 27th, so we don't have a date set for next time, but we will put it out. Please make sure to like the page, South Suburban Prep, and you'll get information as well. You can visit us on the web at our webpage, southsuburbanprep.com.
Hmm.
I know both of us are having a discussion here, but if you'd like to be part of the discussion, if you have a topic that you'd like for us to talk about or bring
Right,
up,
right. Mhm.
or maybe you'd like to come in and have the discussion with us,
Yeah.
we are definitely open to that. Because obviously having these discussions, there's a lot of really good information that
Yeah.
comes out of it. Initially, I know I had talked about, hey, let's bring up all these stats and whatnot. And Nikki looking at me like, well, you crazy? Everybody knows that already. Let's just
Yeah.
talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Let's be real. Let's talk about it. Let's bring the humanistic side back to science, back to our profession, and not treat people as numbers and scopes.
Yeah. So having the discussions, having the communication, and hopefully it goes well.
All right. Thank you, Alberto, for having me. And
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. Okay. So till next time, stay safe, wear condoms. Bye.